Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are taking on a really fascinating collection of sources. They're known as Suzler, or the words.
And these are not light reading, not at all.
No, they're dense. They're these
Yeah.
profound theological and philosophical arguments written over decades, really designed to tackle the spiritual crises of the modern age.
That's a perfect way to put it. And our mission today is really to act as guides through this material. We want to pull out the foundational insights about, human purpose, morality, the nature of existence itself.
So think of this as a kind of strategic briefing.
Exactly. A briefing on a unique philosophical system that all centers on this one powerful idea, the grand bargain of life.
Before we jump straight into that bargain, let's get a little context on the author. The writer is Bediüzzaman Said Nursi, and his career, it didn't just start as a religious scholar. He was also a progressive educator.
Right. He founded the Horhor Madrasa, and he was really passionate about this university project, the Madrasat Shura.
Which was radical for its time, wasn't it?
Yeah. Completely. It demanded that spiritual sciences and natural physical sciences be taught side by side. The goal was intellectual wholeness.
And that desire for wholeness, it was kind of crystallized by a specific event, a challenge.
A pivotal one, yeah. Narcisia read a news report, a statement that was attributed to the British colonial secretary at the time, Gladstone.
What did it say?
The quote, as he read it, suggested that to dominate the Islamic world, you had two options. The Quran must either be taken from the Muslims, or Muslims must be alienated from the Quran.
Wow. So that's not just political commentary. That's a profound threat to an entire worldview.
Precisely. And for him, it galvanized everything. He realized the threat wasn't just military or political, it was intellectual. It was spiritual.
So his life's work, these words.
Became this reasoned project to provide intellectual proofs, compelling spiritual arguments to really demonstrate the Quran's truth and power, specifically for the modern age, to fight that very alienation.
Okay, the stage is set. So let's dive into the practical side of this worldview. You could call it the economy of life.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts with a pretty humbling look at human capacity. The fifth word, I think, it details this. It suggests that our ability for physical action in the world is, well, pretty limited.
Less than a small sparrow is the phrase it uses.
Right, which is a necessary dose of humility. We are physically fragile, we're temporary.
But the text immediately flips that. It turns that limitation into a strength. It argues that, okay, while we're physically weak, spiritually, in terms of knowledge, humility, worship, humanity is elevated, we become the sultan and commander of the animals.
So our physical limits are just there to point us toward a higher, more lasting kind of investment.
Exactly. And that leads us right to the incredible analogy in the sixth word. This is the core of it all. The grand contract about who owns you.
Your life, your body, your spirit.
And all the tools you have, your eyes, your tongue, your intellect, even your imagination. It asks the ultimate question of administration. Who really owns and operates this incredibly complex machine we call a self?
And the proposal is to sell your entire transient existence to the eternal sovereign, to the creator.
That's the offer on the table. And the terms are described as, extraordinarily favorable. It's a five-fold profit that makes any earthly investment look, well, foolish.
Okay, let's walk through those benefits. What's the first one?
First is the wage multiplier. Your efforts, when they're performed in his name, they yield an exponential return, something like a 1 to 1,000 ratio on your investment.
1 to 1,000. And the second?
Second, the burden of maintenance is lifted. Since you are now officially hearing his property, all your operating expenses, your needs, your sustenance, they're completely covered by the sovereign.
Hold on, that's a huge point. The maintenance cost. In modern life, so much of our anxiety is just upkeep.
Right.
Maintaining health, career, possessions.
Exactly. The text emphasizes this. Relieving yourself of the burden of administering your own self is one of the greatest profits. You realize you're just a trustee. The stress of being the ultimate owner of your health, your future, it just evaporates.
You're using the tools, but the maintenance is guaranteed by a power that's infinitely greater than you.
That's the idea. It's a radical form of stress reduction.
A radical form of stress reduction.
I like that. Okay, so what are the other three profits?
Third, your valuable tools. Your intellect, your senses, they don't just waste away here. They find their true, high-value purpose. Fourth, you gain real freedom. You're not a slave to your own fragile needs anymore. And finally, you get this opportunity to serve as an intimate, free military aid to the highest sovereign.
You essentially achieve the highest possible rank in the Eternal Kingdom.
That's the promise.
So you accept the deal.
Hmm.
Infinite returns, free maintenance, supreme dignity. But what happens if you refuse, if you insist on, owning your own life?
Well, the text described 5 degrees of loss. And the first one is that, well, refusal is futile. You lose everything anyway.
Because nobody can stop death and decay.
Exactly. Your life and body will be taken away one way or another. You just lose the high price that was offered. Second, those amazing tools, intellect, senses, they become worthless. They decay into meaninglessness because they're not used for their eternal purpose. It sounds like using a supercomputer just to balance a checkbook.
It's even worse. Third, you're left with that crushing burden of maintenance we just talked about, but amplified 1,000 times. Fourth, you fall from being a sovereign's aide to being the lowest kind of laborer, just serving your own base whims.
And the final loss.
And finally, you face the punishment for betraying that divine trust. It's essentially embezzlement of the soul.
The comparison is just so stark. Life is either this incredibly profitable investment leading to eternal happiness, or it's a futile struggle ending in profound loss.
According to these texts, that choice is the entire engine of the human story.
Okay, that whole concept of a divine economy is fascinating. But let's see how it applies to the big intellectual battles of the modern age. In the next part, the texts go head-to-head with the conflict between Quranic wisdom and what they call worldly philosophy.
This is a really crucial distinction, and it's mostly laid out in the 12th and 25th words. The fundamental difference isn't what you study, it's how you look at it. It's all about perspective.
Okay, explain that. If the philosophical path is about focusing on the ornamentation, the details, isn't that just empirical science, studying how the gears of the universe work?
That is the exact tension that nourishes is addressing. He argues that worldly philosophy, or the people of the art, as he calls them, they look at created beings for their own sake. They see a dazzling machine, they analyze the gears, and they stop there.
So the gaze stops at the surface, at the ornamentation.
Yes. The conclusion is that the gears are either self-sufficient or they're ruled by some blind, random forces.
So the problem isn't studying the clock, it's believing the clock doesn't have a maker.
Precisely. The Quranic wisdom, on the other hand, sees created beings purely as proof, as evidence. The clock is a beautiful, intricate signpost pointing directly to the clockmaker. The whole purpose is to introduce the creator.
And the method the Quran uses is, well, it's very accessible.
It's designed for everyone, not just specialists. It uses simple, apparent language that appeals to the general intellect. It doesn't get bogged down in academic jargon. For example, the mind-boggling scale of the cosmos is used as simple, overwhelming evidence of one creator.
A point anyone can grasp.
Instantly. And that clarity is in sharp contrast to where misguided philosophy can lead, which is discussed in the 30th word.
What happens when you only focus on the gears?
It inflates the ego, the eon.
Let's see.
The ego starts to believe in its own sovereignty. I built this, I own this, I am in control. And when that happens, it leads to the ultimate intellectual error, polytheism, the belief in multiple competing powers running the universe.
Which, in a modern sense, isn't just about idols, it's about worshiping systems or nature or chance.
Absolutely. It leads to what he calls devastating intellectual fruits. Materialism, the denial of any transcendent purpose, and worshiping natural law as if it's some kind of unintelligent god.
Right.
It strips humanity of its real power source.
It's like the glowworm trusting its own tiny light in a vast, dark cosmos.
A perfect image for it. Whereas the path of prophecy teaches humility, which leads to real strength dependence on an infinitely powerful and compassionate source.
Let's pivot now to the great human anxieties that this philosophy tries to solve. Death and impermanence. The 17th word offers a really radical and comforting reframing of death.
Death is terrifying because we see it as annihilation, as the end. But for the believer, the text insists death is not an execution. It's not nothingness. It's simply a change of place.
Like a bureaucratic transition.
A transition from one realm to another. And the imagery it uses is so vivid, the grave is completely reframed. It's not the mouth of a dark well.
No, it's described as a door to luminous worlds.
And that just utterly transforms your relationship with mortality. This temporary world, even with all its beauty, is framed as a kind of prison compared to the eternal comfort that awaits.
That changes the whole value of our struggles here. But that future is dependent on choices we make now, especially in our youth. The 13th word really hones in on this problem of fleeting pleasure.
It does. It gives a stern warning about forbidden pleasures. It compares them to poisoned honey.
The pleasure is immediate, it's intense.
But it masks a deadly price. The loss of your ticket to the eternal treasury, your faith, your spiritual health.
You see that everywhere in consumer culture, right? The immediate hit that masks the long-term cost.
Absolutely. And the text stresses the urgency. It reminds us that death's executioner can arrive at any moment. It doesn't care about age or readiness. If you spend your time chasing that poisoned honey, you're trading a guaranteed infinite profit for a momentary destructive pleasure.
You trade permanence for distraction.
And all of this, the economy of life, the wisdom, the view of death, it all rests on one cornerstone, divine oneness. That's proven in the 32nd word.
How so? How does the universe itself serve as proof?
The argument is that the subtle, perfect order governing everything in the universe just completely rejects the idea of randomness or multiple creators. If even the smallest things, like atoms, show such incredible wisdom and control, how could the colossal systems, planets, life cycles be attributed to blind chance?
The order is too complex, too interconnected.
It has to be a singular, utterly capable sovereign. The same power that creates a single flower also has to be the one governing an entire galaxy. That proof of oneness is the ultimate comfort, because it means the power you've entrusted your life to is actually capable of delivering on the entire promise.
So to wrap this deep dive up, let's just revisit the core message we've pulled out. First, this universe is a temporary, magnificent exhibition, and our main task is to choose the path of profitable investment.
The grand bargain, sacrificing our finite temporary life to the eternal sovereign.
And the central idea is that shift in perspective. Our true value isn't in our worldly abilities, but in recognizing our weakness and connecting to that eternal beloved.
If we just rely on our own efforts, like that glowworm, we stay isolated and dark.
But if we make that investment, we become more like the honeybee, finding all our light and sustenance from the sun. It elevates us from this weak, finite particle to, well, a recipient of an immense encompassing mercy.
And it ensures that all those valuable parts of us, our intellect, our love, our senses, they don't just vanish into nothing. They find their permanent, magnificent destiny.
So what does this all mean for you living in an age of just infinite information overload? The text suggests that worldly knowledge, all the details, the letters and ornamentation of the cosmos, it's all secondary to understanding the creator behind it. In an age where we are constantly bombarded with information about the colors, the mechanisms, the dazzling surface of reality, how can you consciously refocus your daily attention from that overwhelming ornamentation to the profound, singular meaning they all point toward? That is the ultimate perspective adjustment these texts demand.